A 14-year-old boy was arrested and booked for attempted murder in the stabbing of another teen during an immigration protest. Sky 5 was overhead when that fight broke out last Friday in downtown L.A. Students had walked out of school over the Trump administration's immigration policies. A 17-year-old was stabbed in front of City Hall and then taken to the hospital in critical condition. The area was closed off while police investigated.
Yeah, this is not exactly the look that you want to go for, in my opinion, when you have a staged walkout of high school students in Los Angeles and the surrounding areas in order to protest the evil orange man's definitely evil and bad immigration policies, because we can't ever deport the violent criminals in the United States of America, people with pending deportation orders that are in this country. There's over 1.4 million of them, and as a response to that, the kids have been encouraged by the teachers' unions to walk out of schools and protest, make their voices heard, but unfortunately, a 14-year-old boy decided to take that opportunity to stab a 17-year-old and leave him in critical condition. Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we're not just going to talk about this specific violent instance, but we're going to talk about the encouragement of this kind of behavior that left this 17-year-old vulnerable to this attack, and how the consequences should be laid at the feet of the left-wing activist class, of the people in the teachers union, and of everybody who's encouraging this hysteria over the fact that the evil orange man is trying to deport serious, dangerous criminals. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
So I'm assuming that you guys are aware as of right now that the evil orange man was elected for his second term. He obviously ran significantly on the immigration issue. And of course, Tom Homan was put in as border czar, and he has started to initiate ICE raids in sanctuary cities, specifically to find criminals with serious histories that these cities are protecting from deportation. And of course, the reaction from the left has been absolutely chaotic. Of course, they're panicking. The state of California actually had a special legislative session where they ended up appropriating millions of dollars, I believe around $50 million, in order to fight against the evil orange man engaging in law enforcement activity within the confines of the state of California. But in addition to that, you have the activist class trying to rally people, trying to put them out in the streets in order to show that people are standing up to Donald Trump. And of course, the teachers union is one of the chief activist arms of the Democratic Party, and they've decided to allow these students to do their little walkouts during school time to just show the evil orange man that, of course, the kids are not all right with what he's doing.
Breaking news, more student walkouts in protest of President Trump's immigration and deportation policies. But today, things getting heated with fights breaking out in downtown L.A.
This is a common tactic of the teachers' unions. We've seen them time and time again, where they encourage or allow protests that would not be encouraged nor allowed if said protests were, again, for right-wing causes. So in this particular case, you have all these students walking out in the middle of the school day, something that should be described as truancy, something that should be enforced against, in order to supposedly make their voices heard. But of course, it ended up resulting in a bunch of dangerous fights. And I would just remind you guys that there's some serious liability issues for the public schools in cases like this, because what ended up happening when I was in school is that we had an incident where somebody was allowed to leave for lunch and they ended up getting hit by a car on their way to whatever restaurant they were going for lunch during the school day, and the school had to initiate policy in order to prevent that, essentially barring kids from being able to leave campus. And again, this is in New York City, in order for them to not actually have the liability of what happens to those kids when they're in the school, when they're supposedly being observed by the school system, but something ultimately happens when they're off campus. But in Los Angeles, when it's left-wing activism, apparently those rules don't apply, and the consequences of that is that somebody was nearly killed in this particular fight, and it was caught on camera by KTLA, by their helicopter. We also have video footage from the ground, and I will link that in the description of this video. However, I can't show it to you for obvious reasons, because the YouTube gods have been crushing my channel. I showed showed you one little baby clip of the Philadelphia riots that didn't even have any violence in it, and that video was crushed, suppressed, and deemed not advertiser friendly due to violence.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the KTLA 5 News at 3. I'm Glenn Walker.
And I'm Luke Parker. One person was injured in a stabbing during the protest in March that ended at LA City Hall.
So we obviously have the 17-year-old that was injured in this particular stabbing that was caught on video, but this was all a part of a protest that was organized to be the Day Without Immigrants protest, which of course we saw spin out into streets, blocking highways and all of that. But let me give you the numbers in terms of the public schools. Hundreds of high school students walked out of class in Los Angeles, Fresno, and other cities on Monday and Tuesday to protest Donald Trump's immigration policies. Some school districts reported large drops in attendance Monday when immigration rights activists announced a day without immigrants to protest Trump's plan for mass deportation. Los Angeles Unified reported 34% of students were absent on Monday, compared with the average of 7%. Fresno Unified reported that 30% of students were absent, compared with their usual 8%, according to the Fresno Bee. Students again walked out of at least 10 schools in Los Angeles on Tuesday to join protests, according to the LA Times. Now look, to be 100% clear, obviously you do have the right to protest the evil orange man. You have the right to protest on behalf of illegal immigrants, on behalf of illegal immigrant criminals with deportation orders, that you definitely want to stay in the country for whatever god-awful reason you have to justify that. But the fact of the matter is, this was known to be a thing that many students were allegedly going to participate in, and rather than do something to actually nerf their participation in it, they decided to let them out because the teachers in these unions are very much left-wing activists and they agree with the politics. And again, this is something that we've seen time and time again. Sometimes it's a wink and a nod. Sometimes they are told about the walkout and they say, hey, look, a bunch of different students are deciding to leave school, deciding to go out and march and protest at City Hall. They're doing it at in and around this time. If you want to do that, just let us know. And if you're a kid, whether you care about the issue or not, the idea of being able to leave school and have a little bit of fun, be able to enjoy yourself, is sometimes an offer that's just too good for them to pass up. And that is represented by the numbers. Again, you have a jump from 7 or 8% absent rate at this point in time last year to 34% and 30% respectively. And that's absolutely crazy, especially since these school officials know exactly why they're leaving class. They know exactly what's going on and they're doing nothing to nerf it. Now, I'm sure the administration will put out their official stance, which is something to the effect of, oh, don't protest during the school day, make your voice heard in more productive ways and other kinds of activism. But the fact of the matter is, there's no teeth behind it. There's no enforcement. So you're in a situation where these kids are out running amok on the streets. They have the Mexican flags, all the different indicators that they were definitely going to leave school at the designated time for this organized event. And the results of this, the consequence of these teachers being derelict in their duty, of these schools being derelict in their duty, of them ignoring issues of truancy and all of that, is that a 17-year-old was stabbed in the middle of one of these protests. So the message is completely undercut, in addition to the fact that the school opens itself up for liability when they let these kids out and they end up encouraging a situation of chaos, of law breaking, and that ultimately ends up resulting in somebody nearly dying. Again, this did not need to happen this way. This did not need to go down this way, and the school should have acted in a way that was more about the caring about the well-being of the students rather than pushing them to fulfill ideological goals that are shared by the Democrats and by the teachers union.
Glenn Liu, that's right. This is the 6th day in a row that people have been demonstrating against President Trump's mass deportation policies. And unfortunately, things turned violent very quickly. You can see here behind us, police have cordoned off this portion of Grand Park and crowds have since dispersed after a brawl then led to a stabbing. I believe Sky 5 is also overhead to give you a bird's eye view of the large police response in front of City Hall and what is now a crime scene. There have been moments of unruliness with protesters throwing punches at one another. We captured aerial images of a young person taken away on a stretcher, bloodied and bruised. Police confirmed they're responding to a stabbing here in Grand Park, but no word about the person responsible for it. Throughout the week, students and Los Angeles residents have been taking to the streets to voice their frustration with the president's new policies on deportation, displacement, and separation of families. Several people say the protest began very peacefully and then quickly turned violent. Listen.
Now look, obviously I have to freeze the frame due to the violent nature of the footage, but as you're hearing from the local news person, They had punches, all sorts of violent instances, people being attacked by these kids that were just dumped out onto the streets by the school system in order to artificially boost these numbers. And ultimately, we ended up in a situation where one of these students ended up being stabbed, taken away in critical condition. And of course, this is happening multiple days in a row. Now, at this moment in time, they say they don't know anything about the suspect, but of course, this is from when the incident originally broke. Now we know that it's a 14-year-old that was involved in this instance, and the reason they were able to catch him is you have multiple different angles of this violent attack. But again, this didn't need to be encouraged by the schools. It's also a stupid protest because they're intending on going to City Hall. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but Los Angeles is already a sanctuary city. California is already a sanctuary state. So these people are protesting at the City Hall of a politician that agrees with them. They're not really out there to protest. They're really wilding out. And the reason they're able to do so is because the school encouraged this. And again, it's not a great look that all these people who are anti-law enforcement, who want criminals to stay in the United States of America, can't even contain themselves to the degree where they're not fighting and trying to kill each other at their protest that is rapidly descending into a riot. And again, as the local news emphasizes, this is days and days and days in a row of this activity that is occurring in Los Angeles, and it's all artificial, and in addition to that, it's being encouraged through tax dollars, through the teachers in the public schools. You know, again, I highly recommend that you guys go to the links in the description of this video under where it says sources and watch the local news segments, because it's absolutely hilarious to hear about how they're making their voices heard, about how this all started peacefully while they're running B-roll of a brutal fight that turned into a stabbing from the overhead view. And of course, you see nothing but foreign flags in and around this area, and it's absolutely chaotic from top to bottom, and in no way, shape, or form should this be encouraged, should this be promoted, should this be pushed in the way that it was. But unfortunately, this is where that we're at, and your kids are being put in danger on behalf of criminal illegal migrants who have no right to be in this country.
I came to the protest. There was a guy that came up, not even a part of the protest, and just shanked the dude. And I got it all on my camera, and I just walked over. I told him to apply pressure, you know, cut up some shirts, wrap it around them so it stopped the bleeding.
So a couple of things. First and foremost, it is the current year 2025, and this guy is still wearing a mask, and if he's doing so because he's concerned about COVID, then I don't know what to do with these people. I don't know how to talk to these people. I don't know how to get through to them. So if that is the case, I feel immensely bad for this person and their mental distress. That being said, I'm going to give this person a little bit of a break, a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, and point out that this guy also could be hiding his identity, because what it looks like is possibly a Latin American gang stabbing occurred during this protest that was encouraged by the schools. So somebody who is acting in the very same way that we would want somebody punished and deported for was participating in this protest and or riot. And by the way, I don't buy into this nonsense where they're like, oh, a guy just came out of nowhere and then he wasn't a part of the protest at all and he just shanked a random individual. Again, look at the footage, look at the video, look at it for yourself, and what you can see is that they're in a group. This seemed to be like a planned attack, and again, it was an encouraged attack by the schools in that they were encouraging these students to get out into the streets in order to protest on behalf of leftist causes.
The organizers, I guess, were telling people over the microphone to everyone go home, come back another day, we're going to regroup and come back and still fight for immigrant rights.
Because of the violent incident that took place?
Yes.
I mean, think about how ridiculous this is. You have these organizers that are staging this protest. You have the buy-in from the teachers union encouraging these students just so you could have a mass of bodies out there to be like, look at how many people are in the streets against the evil orange man, as if we didn't just have an election, as if he didn't just win the popular vote, as if these issues weren't just decided by the American people. And as a consequence of the fact that they're just trying to flood the zone with as many people as possible, including kids, somebody ends up getting stabbed, and then the organizers are like, well, just come back another day. We'll try again tomorrow. Kids, please leave your knives and your beef at home. Do that in private, which is how it occurs many a times. Don't get caught in 4K by the helicopter camera and all these other various people trying to give you media attention for your AstroTurf movement. But again, this is the risk that they're willing to take. The teachers unions care more about the politics around immigration than actually protecting the students, many of which I'm assuming are are immigrants themselves, are possibly illegal immigrants themselves, and they're willing to let them fight, beat each other up, stab each other in order to push forward the narrative that the orange man is bad, and that is one of the truest forms of Trump derangement syndrome. But of course, I want to know what you guys think about all this down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the immigration protest, churn riot, churn stabbing. Till next time.